Hey guys, today I'm going to do another gestures session, but with this one, I'm gonna go into more of the traditional life drawing tools and techniques. So the video will be broken up into mini segments, and then I will go over some stuff with you. So, I always wrapped my chalk in paper towel just to try and keep my pencil case a little bit clean. So I have charcoal. This is Conte. It's like a hardened, compressed charcoal, essentially, and your hands will just get it everywhere. I don't like using Conte in my sketchbook, but I will be using a very soft 7B pencil. Now, when you are doing gestures, it is always better to use like a very soft graphite and or charcoal pencil and use a larger sketchbook. This is I think this one's an 8 by 10. I would suggest going 9 by 12 or larger. It's better because then you're not forced to confine your sketch into a small space. You want to use your whole arm to sketch. So you can see I have many different Conte sticks, and this is just a charcoal pencil that or no, it's a China pencil, China marker, which is like a grease stick essentially. It's got an interesting thing, and then you just pull it back and unravel it, and that's how it gets more lead. Yeah, so I'm going to avoid using the Conte. I will use a soft pencil to do this, and these are just some blending steps. I don't really use these very often. I have a bunch of them, but again, as I mentioned in a previous video, I don't particularly like clean, smudgy look. I like sketchy look. So, anyways, we're gonna do this. I'm going to set up for 1 minute figurative poses, and they are going to be nude. So 1 minute poses on reference sketchdaily.net, both genders nude poses, and I'm going to get into that in a second. We're starting off with 1 minute gestures. These are running line gestures. You do not lift your pencil off the paper. Work light to get through the entirety of the pose within the first 10 seconds. You want to feel the weight and the pull and the tension. You want to feel what this person is feeling, and you want to communicate it on the paper. That is what running line gestures are. They are a communication of energy and a feeling of weight. And as you can see, when I get into the feet, I am using like a harder pressure and darker lines, and then as I move throughout the image, I am lightly going over everything, other than on the hands where I know there's a tension because there's a pull, so I use stronger lines there. It is picking and choosing your lines and the line width and weight that you want to communicate. Again, do not lift your pencil off the page. These are going to look like scribble drawings. This is going to look like you are putting electricity on a page, and that is what you want. That is what these gestures are. These are a bit more advanced. Usually with running line gestures, it looks like a lot more of a scribble person, but just because I've learned anatomy and I know like different proportions and stuff, I can translate that better on the page. So practice and look up anatomy books, look at the way that the muscles connect, and you will understand how some of the connections I'm making, I'm actually following anatomical landmarks. And understanding those landmarks is pretty important when you're drawing the human figure. So here, when I get into the hand, it's like a scribble, but it describes the motion of the hand and like describes the gesture of what the hand is doing. And that is what you want. You want to create the essence of what the pose is doing. And these poses, even though they are scribble drawings essentially, they will help you with your like greater understanding of like pose and how the body can work. You want to work through the pose. You want to both sides, if the pose, like if there's a leg in the front or a leg in the back, you want to feel which leg is forward and which leg is back, but you also want to draw through the forms and make sure that you're understanding how these forms are connecting and how they are attached to the body. This is a very This was a very stationary pose. She was just very restful, but had interesting curves to her, and this one was a lot of scribbleness. If there's a prop in the drawing, or if they're touching an object, make sure you give some sort of reference of what that object is. See, as I made that arch for this rocking chair that she's leaning against, that will be, like, you just kind of work through that and add that in. As with the previous two drawings, I put in the props that they were touching. And what that does is just gives a basis understanding of what is also in the scene. You don't want to get too caught up in the props, but you do want to give some sort of reference that they are there. Next, we're getting into the 2-minute gestures. These are kind of contour gestures, but I'm still keeping a running line quality in them. I don't want to lift my pencil too much. I really want to, within the first few seconds again of the pose, get through the entire pose and get the feeling of what the person is doing. Get the action down. Use those swooping action lines, if you will. But overall, I want to have a basis to start building my foundations off of. If you do not have a good foundation for running line gestures, for contour gestures, if you don't have the proportions down within the first few seconds and you're too busy fiddling with details, you aren't going to get through the pose. Getting through the pose and describing the forms in the pose are the most important things. Don't worry about facial features. Don't worry about that one little strand of hair that is out of place. Get through the majority of the pose. See, here I'm focusing too much on an accessory that he has. I know you guys can't really see most of it, but that wasn't really an important part of the character, but I just focused on it anyways. But I'm still making sure that you guys can feel the tension in his arm. Here I'm getting into the bow shape. I am lifting my pencil for this just because I wanted to make sure that I was getting the right form down. When I'm going through the body, I don't tend to really lift the pencil a lot because I want it to flow, and I am going so lightly that when I do press down, it makes an impact on the drawing. And it's one of those things that you really want to focus, like how you focus your details is how much pressure you put on the piece or on your drawing media. That will kind of give an accent or accentuate an area. And here I will start drawing his eyebrow for some reason. I don't like that sleeve. I think I could have done more with it. I think it's a very bland shape. Next, we are going into, I'm using Pencil Crown. Again, this is a nude drawing. I've gone back to nudes, and it's a man standing on one leg. So I will want to feel the pressure on that one leg that he is standing on, but he had a beautiful twist to his torso that I wanted to capture. The forward leg is the standing leg, and then the back leg is the one that is lifted. But I will still draw through that standing leg to be able to understand how the other leg is being bent and make sure that I have the anatomy down. But I do that very lightly, so you may see the line going through the forward leg, but it is very light and it is not a distraction. It just adds to the essence of what the sketch is. These, again, I'm building off of anatomical points and just flowing through this drawing. I want to keep it as light as I can because this is 2 minutes and these can get very, very heavy very quickly. See how I'm following around the rib cage and kind of accentuating the twist with certain lines. These drawings are so relaxing, I find, because you're just following the form and you are observing the way that the weight is holding and where the twists and turns of the anatomy are. I find them relaxing, other people found them tedious, but near the end of a drawing session you will be so tired, especially if you do 15, 20, or 30 minutes of 1 minute or 2 minute gestures. You will be so tired by the end of it. The last drawing I will be doing, I believe this one will be finishing up, I will go more into a contour gesture, but I still keep a running line feel to it. I think that foot should have had a little bit more pressure on it. It doesn't look like it's holding a lot of weight. So this is the last one, and again, I start off with a running line gesture just to give an essence of what the pose is doing, and then I start adjusting and building and start using basic shapes and forms to be able to describe the pose. I switched the way that I was holding my pencil, and I really wish I wouldn't have, because I feel like I lost some quality to my line work when I did this. But anyways, so it's getting the shapes down, following the directions that I have placed with the running line gesture, and then observing the pose in the photo that I'm using. Or if you're in front of a model, observing your model and really trying not to get too caught up in minor details, but at the same point in time being able to describe the forms in a way that people understand what they are looking at. That is the most important thing when doing these contour gestures. So I'm going to finish up this pose, and the contour gestures are fun, and I will do some more of them and give you guys some more information on them. Running line gesture was the main portion of this video. So I will be showing you guys a slideshow essentially of all of the artwork, and if you have any questions on any of my process, or if you would like more of these videos, please let me know in the comments below. If you're new to the channel, I draw everything. Ask me if you want me to draw something. If you like the video, please subscribe, and yeah, I will chatter at you guys later. Bye.